Hello everyone, my name is Erik Miller and you're watching another episode of Beyond the Baseboards. I really appreciate you coming and checking it out and spending time with us, and it means a lot, and I hope that you will get a lot from this episode. It is really extra special. Do you know about real estate investing? Let's say yes. You want to know how to get into real estate investing. When should you start? Right now with the market going up or maybe going down, how can you determine the bottom? Investing in real estate is one of the most powerful ways you can grow to financial prosperity. Everyone knows that, but how do you get there? Well, today on Beyond the Baseboards, we're going to talk with Thomas Paulauskas. He's a real estate broker, team leader, and professional investor out of Palmdale, California. Let me say this, Thomas is not a normal dude. He's truly an exceptional leader. He's smart in his decisions, but also super courageous. If you've ever thought about real estate investing, or you want to just figure out when would be the best time to buy a home, this is not clickbait. He shares it in this video. He has no ulterior motives. He has nothing to sell. He's just a generous dude who answered my question open and honestly. You can learn a lot from Thomas Paulauskas, not just in the things he shares, but by studying him as a person. I hope you enjoy this episode and it makes a huge benefit for you.
I was walking home as a young kid. I used to always walk to my friend's house, which is about a mile away. And walking home, and I lived in an apartment. Okay, and there was like blood on the concrete, the walkways, right? Just little splatters here and there, and which wasn't uncommon to have this type of situation in that area. It was very common. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, you know, it's really sad that we live in this complex and we can barely afford to pay the rent. And, you know, it's unsafe and there's a lot of things going on. It was normal every day to me, you know, but there was constantly stories happening and apartments getting broke into and, you know, drug sales, all kinds of stuff going on there.
Right.
And so I was thinking to myself, I'd much rather own this than struggle to pay the rent. And that just opened my mind as I was walking home, and I was like, well, what would it take to own something like this? And I was like, well, I have no clue. And I knew there was realtors, there was real estate agents that helped people buy properties and sell properties, right? So I was like, well, what if I became a real estate agent so that way I could learn about the business and also, you know, get a chance at good deals or help me just educate myself to become an investor. And that's when I said, that's what I want to do. I want to invest in real estate. I want to own real estate. I want to flip real estate. And my vehicle to get there is going to be becoming a realtor.
How do you compare what's happening there to read the tea leaves for what's happening now? Because a lot of people are making the sort of similar comparisons between that time in the market and now in the market with respect to the housing values, at least.
Absolutely. And I watched that very carefully. And to be honest with you, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know, to be honest, but what my gut says and what I am educated on, I come up with my own hypothesis, right? Okay. So what I see going on is different than last time, right? Last time it had to do with the real estate market, bad loans, that created the last crash, correct? And this time around, they're saying, hey, there's not as many bad loans. People have a lot of equity, at least right now, right?
Yeah.
And so we're not going to see that. Interest rates are low, so it's still a good market, and the real estate market in itself is strong. So I do see a potential correction coming, and the reason for that is because of so in the 90s, it was based on employment. Employment was changing, and that's what caused the crash. That's what I'm hearing, right? I wasn't in the market back then. I wasn't in the business. Right. So that's what I'm hearing from my research and education, that had a lot to do with employment, unemployment numbers, stuff like that, right? So this time around, we're going to see that something similar again. Well, obviously last month we added 850,000 jobs back to the US job market, which is fantastic. We're still below where we need to be. And I'm seeing people that are selling their homes now that are starting to fall behind on their payments, or they're struggling to make their payments. And they're just like, hey, we feel it's the top, we want to get out. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I sold a couple homes before, all the lockdowns, because I just felt that we were tipping the top. I mean, I didn't think we were going to crash. I thought there was going to be a correction, and it seemed like the market was starting to slow down. And then the lockdowns caused actually, less inventory, more demand, and the market just kind of ramp up.
And a 25% increase year over year.
Exactly. Isn't that insane? That is insane. So, I do see it coming. Forbearances are expiring. Eviction moratoriums are coming up, and these landlords, that especially the ones that haven't been collecting rent, they're like, hey, it's the top of market, I'm going to cash out, I'm sick of this house, the tenant's not paying. Even the ones who are paying, they want to cash out too, so I have a lot of non-owner occupant sellers giving me a call like, hey, what's my property worth, how do we get it sold? Then I have the other ones, and some are where the tenants are cooperative, and some are not, where they're like, hey, the tenant hasn't been paying, what can we do to get this property vacated and get this house sold? So I see a lot of inventory, and as you know, more inventory nationally has ticked up month over month for the last 3 to 4 months, and less homes have sold as a percentage, right? I mean, it's not a huge percent. I believe it's like 4%, more listings month over month for the last 4 months, but we see it coming, and the eviction moratoriums are up at the end of this month. And forbearances, I think it's up in September. So I think that's going to cause a lot of more inventory, and these high prices are drawing back the enthusiasm for these buyers as far as demand goes.
Well, one of the things I'm actually going to do a video on this about how they say serious delinquency is 6%, right? And so they classify serious delinquency as 90 days or later.
90 days.
But they don't. They're not counting any delinquency that's currently in a forbearance.
In a forbearance,
which is another 8%. So our actual serious delinquency rate is like 15% of all loans in the country.
Right. Absolutely.
That is like a nuclear disaster for the housing market. That's what I worry about. And I assume they're just going to keep kicking the can down the road. What's your instinct tell you?
Even if you kick the can down the road, something can happen in another industry of our economy. And so you can kick that can down the road, but there's a couple of cans that affect the other cans. Sooner or later, you just got to go to the recycling place and,
you pull a hammy. Now you can only kick with the left foot. You can't catch up to it.
Exactly. I mean, if you follow the stock market, things seem, very volatile. And we know that the housing market also affected in 2008, it affected the stock market, right? So it has that rollover. Now, will the stock market also affect the housing market? And I'm not an expert in the stock market, but I'm hearing a lot of things like, hey, the market is about to have another correction coming up soon.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? When you have one of these major things happen, whether it's the stock market or housing market, they're all tied together now. I mean, I heard about like pension funds in Ireland going bust because the U.S. housing market collapsed, and they're like, I mean, it can have a pretty serious, calamitous, like snowballing impact if just one little thing happens, and then that's it.
Yep, definitely. There's a snowball effect.
So I want to come back to something else that you said, which I think is really cool and not often talked about, which is, when you were younger, you wanted to be an investor. It sounds like you went and pursued that. And how long have you been investing in property overall?
Wow, that's a great question. I believe my first purchase, I think, was in 2009 to buy a rental property. and it was one of our foreclosures. It was a duplex. My first, I put all the money I had. Here's the crazy thing. Bought it for $53,000. It needed a ton of work, don't get me wrong. And it was when, the market was saturated. It was still a great deal even then. Bought it cash. And right now that property is worth probably close to 400,000. So that was a great
and you've
investment.
held it since 2009?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I currently own 7 rental units, and, I plan to do more of this next time it corrects. It doesn't have to be a crash. If we have a 20% correction, okay, then I'm back in the game. So I have that. I flipped 7 homes so far in my career. I've helped others start their flipping careers as well, that have been on my team and such, and have gone on to invest in flip property. So yeah, I was able to make that a reality. Here's the thing though, I don't feel satisfied. I feel like I need more, and I don't have a large apartment complex. Because again, I was walking down the street of a large apartment complex, and I'm like, this has to become a reality. And I've been writing it down. I've been speaking it into existence, and yet I'm still just on the cusp of it. So I'm still waiting on that one.
So thank you for sharing that. Not everybody wants to talk about their own stuff, but it's really important because you said something super interesting, and I want to highlight this for everybody out there that's listening, thinking about investment property. They're thinking about, is now a good time to sell or buy or whatever. You probably have realistically more experience than 99% of the people out there, right? You've turned at least 15 or more properties personally, plus all the ones that you've done as a real estate agent, and then as a broker, and then with your team. You have an infinite amount of real life, hands-on, like no bullcrap experience. And even you had no idea that the market was going to go up or down prior to the pandemic. And that's, I think, very important for people to understand, is that all the experience in the world just gets you a little bit further ahead. But in the end, it's still what do you want to, it's not a guess, but it's more of like managed, it's still a managed opinion.
Right. You're still you're still working with the amount of risk, right?
Yes.
No matter what, there's going to still be that risk. And for instance, I sold a couple properties, 2 properties before the lockdowns. And I thought, hey, look, we're at the top. And if we're not at the top, we're close to it. That's how I felt. And I said, you know what? It's worth it to sell it now because I have won. I win. Okay. And like you said, you had people crying in the broker's office. And I remember different investors crying about their investments and how they just totally went bust. They put too much money in the market, and they were financing these with 0 down, and they just lost all these properties, right? So I always have that in the back of my mind when I invest in a property. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be in that situation. So I kind of toned down the investing a little bit. I think the last property I flipped was about a year and a half ago. And so I toned that down, and I'm just saving, because as soon as it turns, I want to have the liquid to be able to go out there and make those investments to hit the goals that I've been looking for since I was 8, 9 years old. I've always been a pretty good saver. Always been pretty big on having my own business ever since I was little, and investing, like, how can I turn money into more money? And so that's why it was like, hey, look, I want to invest in real estate. And I saw these opportunities of these homes that were selling. Like, I just didn't get it. And I know I was green, I was new, and I just didn't really know the market yet. But I was like, these things are selling for 50,000, 60,000, under 100,000. I'm like, it can't make sense not to buy these things. We live in California. It has to make sense. So even those who were on the team I was on prior, I was like, you guys, what is going on here? Are we investing? Are we going to put some money into these? Can we buy some of these? And then, oh, we shouldn't buy our own listings. And I get it. But I was like, well, we need to get together, put some money together. We need to start buying these properties. So I was more of the one influencing them. Like, isn't it time to buy? And my mentor, he was an investor as well. He owned several properties. He lost some. Again, he was one of those people that lost some. And I was just like, why aren't we investing? And in that environment, I was still able to make a couple of purchases, make a couple of investments, and go, the light bulb's on, like, you were right. I tried to buy some other ones without any money. I reached out to people. Again, I was very young. People didn't want to invest with me. I didn't know how to get them to invest with me. So I lost out on some deals. Knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, if I had put together a better presentation, if I had been more confident, if I reached out to more people, I could have bought these houses for 40 grand. And right now they're worth 400,000,
Right. Right. I mean, it's so you planned it, you executed it, and then when you bought the houses, in '09, they went up, right? They went up. You fixed them, they went up, and then
Absolutely.
at any point you could have got rid of them. 2014, not bad. 2015, pretty good. 16, great. 18, amazing, but you didn't, right? You held them, and it's like, it's really awesome the way that you're able to see things ahead of time and project, but then like make the moves that you need to make right now for what is the future. And I share all of that to ask this question for the people that are watching. What's the next thing? What's the thing they could be doing right now that will help them in the future? What's the new thing? You've got a spidey sense about you. You've got a thing about you. You know what I mean? I'm trying to cash in on it for my little podcast here. So like, what's the next big thing for people?
The next big thing is realistically going to be what interests them. I mean, I don't know. If you're interested in real estate, great. I think that investing in real estate is solid. There's a lot of different ways you can invest into some type of a syndication. For me, again, I want to get that large multifamily apartment complex. That's the next big thing for me. I researched, I didn't pull the trigger a couple of times. And I regret it, to be honest with you. I regret it. One of the problems I had as an investor was that I got these deals. I bought a house for $30,000 in Palmdale, which is in Los Angeles County. I took it and I flipped it for $65,000 in like 3 months. One of my first deals. And it was like a no-brainer. Like, why isn't anyone buying this? And it was around Christmas anyway. So I think that might've been part of the reason. So, foreseeing that future, for me, I'm interested in building other companies. That's one of my main things. Working on a coaching program for realtors who start out, and I like win-wins. A lot of time I love to give, and I also like to win. So I want to give back. I want to do these coaching programs and just kind of start generating a revenue and training people to get to the next level. Obviously I invest in stocks too. I invest in cryptocurrency as well. I'm not the expert there. I just I take some risks. I do a bit of research, take some risks, and I've done decently at it. And but my main thing is real estate and getting that multifamily that's continuously generating month-to-month income, that in a worst case scenario I could sell it, is where I want to be.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with a couple personal questions because you gave me a nice answer. But like, are you saving money with a specific intention of waiting for some correction of some kind in the real estate market so that you can jump back in? Yes or no, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
And how would you be able to tell when is, and I know each market is different, but how can you kind of say, okay, hey, I should maybe look at this? At what point do you feel like it's worth maybe dipping your toe in again and starting to look at it?
Like you said, there's a lot of risk, and I take more risk than most, but less risk than some. Calculated risk, and that has hurt me a little bit sometimes, where it's like, hey, maybe if I did take that bigger risk, I would have a better outcome. I'm not mad about it, because I've taken calculated risk where it's been very safe. And so, yeah, I'm saving money. And as soon as if there is a market fluctuation of close to 20%, and if I look at today's rent right now, today, what is rent? Right now, it's high. It's high. It could go down. So I'm not going to base it on today. I'm going to base it on 20% of that. So
Okay.
if I can rent this property for 20% less, still cover the payment, the insurance, taxes, all of that, and bring out a little bit of a profit so that I could pay for any repairs or things like that. So I'm looking at worst case scenario. Then okay, all right, I can take this risk. It's time to buy another rental property. It's time
So
to buy
you
another
look
flip.
at the rental rates and you say, you sort of calculate in, what if this rental rate is 20% less?
Exactly.
Can I buy the house then still and make a little bit of profit, or be an even Steven or whatever? And that's
Exactly.
that's the parameter that you use.
100%. Yeah. I want to know that if there's a 20% fluctuation, I'll still pull in a bit of profit to cover any expenses that could happen on the house. Because again, I seen it where these people were paying $200-300 a month over what they were able to rent the properties out for, and they kept them for so long. Finally, they're just like, stop paying for it, or they let the property go, they sold it, whatever. So I don't want to be in that situation. You know what I mean? I want to be in a nice, solid position. And I know there's still some money in the market. You can go out there and invest and still flip homes and potentially rent them out. And how long can we do that at the prices that we're at? And I don't have a crystal ball. Inflation, people are getting higher salaries. Who knows? It could just be going up, and this could be one of those low risks that I'm looking for that might hurt me. And I don't think it is. And but again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's be clear. You're not telling anybody what to do, right?
Exactly.
I'm literally
Right.
pulling this from you.
Absolutely.
Because what I know that other people might not see, and I'm hoping that they see, is that you have it figured out. And the reason why I know you have it figured out is because if you ask Tom Brady what his favorite Super Bowl title is, his answer is the next one.
Ooh.
Right? And so you actually have a bit of Tom Brady mentality in that, like, you're still thinking about properties that you couldn't buy for 40,000. What is it? 2009. How long ago is that? What is it? I can't add right now. I'm so flustered by it, but I'm saying, like, that's the same mentality. Years. So I'm doing everybody a huge favor here, and thank you for participating with me on it. Okay, so this is like my favorite section of the sort of podcast is in your experience from the time you started, what's the most unbelievable real estate story that you've got?
Unbelievable real estate story.
Like, so something that happened that people are like, I cannot believe that's a real story.
I got a long list of just crazy stories in sales, in my own investments, and they're pretty long. I've done them where people were about to be homeless. You know what I mean? Like I'm selling house, they're buying a house, and financing is going array. Everything, this house is supposed to close. They're about to be homeless because they can't close on the next house. And where I'm talking to these people every single day, every single night for hours on end, I'm losing sleep. My stress level is through the roof, and finally pulling it all together. I mean, and I've had situations where, I've been in really tough ones where, I don't know if I should mention.
See, that's why it's a good question, right? Do it.
Okay. I was sued for $90 million.
What? Okay.
This is a good story, and I'll share it with people as a part of encouragement for anyone that's going through a tough situation.
Okay.
I was sued for $90 million. I was representing a client to purchase a duplex, and then we had the intent to get it rented and sell the duplex. This seller was not in our area, so she relied on me specifically. We helped her buy the property, fix it up, get it on the market for rent. Okay. Then we started helping her get it rented out. Okay. Now our E&O insurance doesn't really do property management. And I was in the gray area on property management because I was so involved looking at, okay, I get to sell this property. She also had a 10-unit building that I was like, okay, like I got to do good. And then I could sell the 10-unit because she wanted to fix that up and sell it as well. Well, during that process, I got these, people to start renting the property. And one of the guys was addicted to drugs.
Oh.
He was an alcoholic, and he just wasn't the greatest upstanding person to be living there. He was a young guy. It was a couple, and they came off real sweet. And this guy, he did certain things. Who knows? I mean, what was taken on the property and stuff. And not long later, they're saying like he's sick. He's in the hospital. He might have meningitis and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're going to sue you guys. And I'm like, okay, like for what, So, and then they're like, no, we're not going to sue. And then we get sued.
Okay.
For $90 million. And I guess what happened was there was attorneys that wouldn't take the case. And then finally they found someone that would. And there was a chicken coop on the property. Okay. During the rehab, we removed the chicken coop, and it was out of sight, out of mind. I don't know. I don't recall if it was on disclosures and stuff like that. Well, apparently there's a fungus that could, that chickens could cause to develop, and somehow, some way, it got into him, not in his girlfriend, in him. Who knows what he was doing. We thought he was sick because of all the stuff he was taking. Well, this is a fungus that's in the air. Everyone breathes it in. I guess it was just a higher concentration of it. Okay. And on this property, at least based on their inspection and report. And with his lower immune system from all the things he was already abusing, caused him to get sick on the property. And then so they came after me, they came after the owner, they came after everyone. Now it didn't, I mean, it was a almost 2-year process where I was like, I'd never been sued, so I thought I was losing everything. I was like, you know what? I know it wasn't necessarily my fault, but I was in a gray area, and
you're
some
a
things weren't
responsible
done.
Person, and yeah.
Exactly. So and their attorney was like, yeah, be ready to lose everything you have. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to lose all the properties I own, all the hard work I've done, all the money I have saved in the bank. I was just ready to give up. I was becoming depressed. And it was just very hard for me to go through this situation. And I didn't even want to work. I was like, I'm working for someone else to take my money away. That's how I felt. And, I started researching a lot. I started praying a lot. I relied a lot of faith in God to get me through that situation. Because in all reality, I couldn't have made it through myself. I was really down in the dumps. I'd worked so hard. I felt like a failure as a father, because I thought like my kids weren't going to have the same life anymore, and then finally it clicked in my head was, I am going to work. I am going to continue to bring in income, and I'm going to work hard. And if someone takes all of it away from me, I will recover faster than how long it took me to build this. I will do everything it takes to grind it out the day to day, and I will overcome and be even better. We all make mistakes as realtors, especially new realtors, and their stress level I see. And, and I realize being calm, having a positive outlook, knowing that everything is going to be okay. Everything will be okay. We're going to move forward, has been such a relief. I could sleep at night. As long as no one's being unethical and stuff like that, I have my morals, and I could sleep at night.
Mhm.
I know that it's all going to come together. The deals will close. The people will be okay. You know what I mean? They're not going to be homeless. And I've come to understand that and be calm to make the right decisions moving forward on how to adjust and fix any problems that arise. It's been a blessing because, yeah, I've had hard situations since then, and going through that, I didn't experience them and react to them in the same way.
Mhm.
You pried it out
Awesome.
of me, man. You pried
You
it
were
out of
awesome,
me.
man. You are so awesome. Thank you very much for being on the podcast. Yeah, really, like, just great. I'm gonna have to edit that part out. How about I edit that part out? I'm not such a. That was great. All right, okay, I'm gonna go now. Okay, that was such a great. It's really great to meet you. Thank you for all of your like incredible insights, all your leadership, your strength, all that stuff. It's just awesome. I hope people are as jazzed up when they see this as I am right now. I am really glad that we met. And I'm grateful for your time. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Erik. Yeah, I know. I appreciate you having me on. And what I could say is this interview has been a lot different than some of the interviews I've done for real estate and things like that. So I really appreciate the different perspective that you put on this interview.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Good talk with you. And I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.